Hi, boys and girls. I hope that you have had an amazing day today. I hope you got in some work time and I hope you got in some break time. I hope that you were being respectful to your parents and kind to your siblings. You know, this time is hard on us all. I keep saying we are in uncharted waters. So if waters are uncharted, that means that no one's ever been there before. Nobody has ever experienced it. There's not a map, there's not a guide, there's not an instructional manual that will tell us how to get through this time. But I do know that if we stick together, we are stronger together and we're better together. And we just have to lean on each other and we will get through it together. I wanted to end your night by reading you a book. This book is called The Book Tree. Now, fun fact about this book, I have never read it before. So I am experiencing this book with you for the very first time tonight. Nestled in the branches of a tree, Arlo opened his book and breathed in. Beginnings were always the best part. They smelled as if anything were possible. Bonk. Do you see what happened? Now, there's no text on this page, so you got to look carefully to figure out what happened. I'm sorry, Mayor. I got lost in my book and it slipped. Preposterous. Books are dangerous. I don't trust them. They act like seeds which grow into ideas, and ideas turn into questions. I will tell you what you need to know. First, the mayor gathered every book in the library and then every book in the whole town. Then he tore them up until all that was left was a single page that floated away into a passing breeze. Would you kind of say that he overreacted? Like this was just an accident. A lot of times when I'm reading books, I think about things that have happened in my own life. And I think about a time, it just comes to my mind, where something was really an accident and I didn't mean for it to happen, but the person totally overreacted. Arlo chased the page as it blew across town. It reminded him of a dandelion seed drifting on a wish. When it landed, the muddy earth swallowed it letter by letter until it too was gone. Arlo thought that perhaps the mayor was right. After all, he'd been elected mayor. He must know something. But without books, Arlo noticed changes wherever he looked. So he noticed that things were changing without books. What is the biggest thing you notice without books? What do you think a world would be like without books? At school, teachers had nothing to read, so story time became nap time. Without cookbooks, restaurants only served dry cereal. No one went to the theater since actors had nothing to act out. And in the place Arlo loved most, all the shelves were empty. Arlo sat where the last page was buried. He missed the crack and the creak of a book's spine the first time you open it. He longed for the smell and the crisp texture of a book's pages. But most of all, he missed getting lost in an epic adventure. Sadly, Arlo scratched 2 words into the dirt. Do you see his 2 words? Endings were always the worst part of any book. But as he stared at the words, they grew into an idea. Arlo sat with pencil and paper and let his ideas flow. This is why teachers always say that readers become writers, because readers get ideas that help them. And then they turn those ideas into great writing. He read his stories out loud to anyone who passed by, but no one stopped to listen. Ugh. Then Arlo heard something, a sound he thought he'd never hear again, that familiar crack and creak. When Arlo looked for the source of the sound, he saw a sprout springing from where the page had been buried. It began to open its leaves. It reached for Arlo's words, begging for more. And there's the beginning of the what? The book tree. With every story Arlo wrote and read aloud, the sprout grew. Arlo wrote a story about a giant and the tree grew tall, stretching for the clouds. He wrote about a fire-breathing beast and its branches became as strong as dragon's claws. He wrote about a magical swan made of paper and blooms of tissue paper blossomed into books. When the books were ripe, Arlo climbed into the branches of the book tree and breathed deeply, enjoying the fruits of his harvest. While Arlo read, a friend stopped under the tree. "I'm bored. There's nothing to do." "You could try reading," Arlo said. "Is that a book?" "Yup. Here, I love this story," Arlo said, giving her a hand up into the tree. The two shared a shady spot. What's your favorite book to recommend to a friend? Soon, flocks of readers roosted on the limbs. Books spread through the town like pollen in the wind. People grew hungry for reading again. Some wrote their own stories and became book gardeners themselves. Fiery maples bloomed with picture books, willows wept with poetry, and fruit trees filled with cookbooks flourished. As the trees grew, the town blossomed. The mayor, lost in his mayoral work, was oblivious to all of the changes. That means he didn't know what was going on. That is, until a ripe book fell on his head. Boink! The mayor kicked and stomped. "Who planted these trees?" "You did, sir," Arlo said. "When you tore up the books, it planted an idea." "Impossible. This is the second time my head is hurting because of a book. The trees have to be cut down." But we've become a town of books and stories. You can't cut them down." The mayor walked the streets of the town. He gorged himself at one of the five-star restaurants, caught a show in the park, and lost himself in a story about a boy fishing for a whale in a puddle. Maybe the mayor is now seeing how important books are. "Books did all of this?" the mayor asked, astonished. "No," Arlo said, as he handed the mayor a freshly picked story. "The book was just the seed." The end. You know, readers ask and answer questions as they are reading text. I want to know, what questions did you ask yourself as you read or listened to me read The Book Tree? What questions do you still have now that the story is over? Readers always are thinking about questions, and then they are trying to find out the answers to those questions. Hope your night is great. See you tomorrow.